All right, good morning. Call the meeting to order at 9:30. Just start here with the adoption of the agenda. Anything added from administration side?
No, Your Worship.
Any other additions in council? Seeing none, Councillor Wilhelm.
A motion to council.
Councillor Dean.
I had asked that we move the land use issue or agenda item to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I got the note there for that. We're gonna make that at 10 o'clock. Finish that right after the delegate that I have first thing here.
Okay.
All right, so with that, Councillor Wilhelm.
A motion that council adopts the agenda as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Have two meeting minutes here need to be adopted. If anybody sees any errors or omission, there's October 16th, the council meeting, and a special council meeting August 30th. Councillor Wilhelm.
A motion that council accepts the meetings of council meeting August 16, 2023 as presented.
Motion on the floor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. We got a second motion there needed. Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Williams.
Okay.
Just pulling up here. I'll make a motion that we adopt the special council meeting minutes, August 30th, 2023.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that one is carried. I know we're a couple minutes early. You guys ready to go? We'll jump right into the delegation now. We got a 9:35, a couple minutes early, but.
Good morning, Region Council. Before you today are the Barrhead and District Victim Services Association. We have Margaret Osborne, she's the chair. We have Jocelyn McKinnon, and we also have Anna Swan. They're going to be speaking to their funding request this morning.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get going here, I'll just run around the table, get you a quick introduction so you know who you're in front of here. I want to start with Mr. Bichon.
Good morning, Hunter Bashan, Director of Infrastructure and Acting CAO.
And just a second, do you have a daughter, Angie? No, okay, because there's in the teaching system there, okay.
Carrie Stevens, Executive Assistant.
Devin Williams, Councillor for Fortiston and Timu.
John Burrows, Councillor for Whitecourt West.
Dave Cush, Councillor for Ensemble.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Andrew World, Interim Director of Corporate Services.
All right, and I guess, and sorry, we have online there, Councillor Dean.
Thanks, Chair. Alan Dean, Councillor for Whitecourt Central.
So I gotta remember to keep looking at the screen up there. All right, with that, whenever you guys are ready.
Okay, thank you. As she introduced, I am the board chair, and Jocelyn and Anna are board members. And Anna has spent about 25 years as an advocate before she became a board member. So she's very devoted to, well, we all are, but she's really devoted to victim services. So, you had our letter, and you also have our program manager's report. And a few highlights. The program manager's report is from 2022. But I think, as anybody realizes, it's a continual growth in the number of referrals, clients, and just the victim numbers seem to be going up for our unit at least. And I think in her program manager report, it was the highest it had ever been at 500 and something for the year of 2022. So another very busy part for our program manager, who is a fabulous person doing it now all by herself as our support person has left. But she's very busy too with the clients and resumption of court. So she's attending court and trials with many of the clients. Keeps her very busy. The request for the extra monies there is that, as you know, mileage, the provincial government capped mileage and training at 1,000 and did so years ago. which is very difficult for our area mileage-wise because she serves all the way up to Swan Hills. So Barrhead, County of Barrhead, the Woodlands County, Fort Assiniboine area, and then Swan Hills. So, and seems to be a large number of mental health calls, as you probably realize. And of course, vehicle thefts, catalytic converters, copper wiring, and on and on. And another big thing that seems to be happening in our area is online fraud, and we've had several seniors caught in that sad state of affairs. And so our program manager has been dealing with online fraud cases, it seems to. Just a review, I'm sure you already know this as well, that the government of Alberta is proceeding with their move to the zonal model for victim services. So as of March 31st of 2024, your community victim service boards would be dissolved in most cases. And they're moving forward with those redesign plans. People think that they're not gonna make that deadline. I don't know. They certainly are. They've hired a consultant and things are now moving along. But we have not heard of any CEO being hired for the zone that we're in, which seems to be the western zone. In talking to Heather too, because the very strange thing is the head of that western zone is going to be Claremont, which is north of Grand Prairie. I don't know. I have lots of questions, and that's one of the things I wrote down. So many unknowns still, even though we're starting to get pieces filled in. But sometimes those pieces just cause more unknowns. So, but Barrhead Victim Services plans to carry on to the very end until we are having to dissolve. And should that be later on, we plan to do that. We will carry on until we are not there anymore, per se. The one thing I have to say about the redesign, and this was one of the things we discussed with you, with your group last year when we came, we were all upset about the fact that trauma was not going to be part of their redesign plans. However, it does seem that they have looked at that and made some changes. And they now are terming things as being crime and trauma, victims of crime and trauma. So even though we were hoping they wouldn't use that word victim, they are, and that's, it's well known, so that's it. That's all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. And
Any questions from council? Councillor Wilhelm?
I don't have any questions other than we'd already approved a funding increase last year. I don't see why we wouldn't continue on with the same funding this year.
I guess there a lot of your sentiment on what this is gonna look like or what it could like after the provincial deadline. I agree. I don't think it's very well thought out, and I think this is gonna be it's a headache for a lot of people. They're gonna need the service coming into 2024. So sometimes whatever, the wheel ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Anything else from Councillor Williams?
I was just gonna say to support this 100%, and I'd make a motion that council approve the funding in the amount of $3,000 to the Barrhead Community Victim Services Unit Association for 2023.
All right, with that, a motion on the floor. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Dean, and that one's passed.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes,
Thanks for all your
thank
hard
you.
work.
Thank you. Yes.
Just checking with our CAO there, Mr. Bichon. We have Councillor Dean and the bylaw scheduled for 10 o'clock. Are we able to move that up?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay. With that, we'll move to, jumping all over the agenda here a little bit. We're going to go to 5.2, bylaw 602/23.
Mr. Chair,
Councillor Burrows.
so this is, I'm just gonna make sure I'm the right one is this the one that has to do with Mr. Gold?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at this point, I'm gonna declare a pecuniary interest on this one because, and because this is part of a legal settlement, I don't have any idea whether or not I do or don't have a, and I haven't been privy to any of these things, so I don't know whether it's, I'm kinda in the dark here a little bit, but I'm gonna declare this as a pecuniary interest for me.
Okay.
As far as I read though, when it comes to the public hearings, I would be able to sit as a member of the public, so that's all.
Yep. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hey, Mr. McKay.
Alrighty, so as conditioned of the proposed settlement agreement regarding Plan 0825617, Block 5, Lot 1, on Part South 315912, west of the 5th, the following process is requested for council to consider. The first being a land use amendment application from limited commercial district to direct control district with the existing uses, as well as a development permit application for the as-built hangar and all the accessory uses and existing uses that are happening. The land use and development permit application public hearing can be held concurrently, and the development permit application is subject to proposed bylaw 602/23 passing final reading. The draft bylaw is attached outlining the amendment from LC to DC with uses as described in the bylaw. Council may consider a land use amendment in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw. Development permit application under direct control pursuant to Section 106 of the Land Use Bylaw requires that a public hearing be held. A public hearing must be scheduled for both bylaw amendment and development permit application, and administration recommends that the public hearing be scheduled for October 11th, 2023 at 10 a.m. here at Woodlands County Municipal Council Chambers.
Right, any discussion from council on this? Councilor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 602/23, amending land use bylaw 49017 for S 315912 west of the 5th, plan 0825617, block 5, lot 1 to DC Direct Control District.
Right, motion on the floor for first reading to the bylaw. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Okay, that one's passed. We got a second motion and a recommendation here by Councilor Williams.
I'll make a motion that council direct administration to schedule the public hearing for the land use amendment application 2023 LUA02, bylaw 602/23, and development permit 15-053-2023 for October 11th, 2023 at 10 a.m. at the Woodlands County Whitecourt Municipal Office.
Okay, motion on the floor again. Any discussion from council? Not seeing any, call the question, all in favor? And that one is passed. Okay, if someone wants to get Councilor Burrows, we'll bring him back in. We'll move back up to 5.1. You again there, Mr. McKay?
Yep. Attached is the land use amendment application 2023 LUA 03 and bylaw 606/23 to rezone plan 9724048 lot 1. It is a 6.15 acre parcel and to be rezoned from A1 district, agriculture 1, to CR country residential district. The applicant is planning to rezone this particular parcel for ease of sale and the ability for potential purchasers to obtain financing as a residentially zoned parcel versus an agricultural parcel. Council may consider a land use amendment for this, as it is currently zoned A1. The parcel is being utilized as a residential parcel since the purchase of it from the province and the subsequent subdivision in 1997. The parcel size and current residential use meet the requirements in a country residential district in Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw. In review of the municipal development plan, consideration of future use should be considered as residential due to the proximity to the town of Whitecourt and the existing residential use in the immediate area. Attached for council's consideration for first reading is Bylaw 606/23, amending Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw for the 6.15 acre parcel from A1 to CR. A public hearing must be scheduled for the bylaw amendment, and administration is recommending the public hearing be scheduled October 11th at 9:45 a.m. at Woodlands County Whitecourt Municipal Office, Council Chambers.
Okay, I do have one question for administration on this. Given we have 2 public hearings in that same day, and if we have members of the public show up and we start addressing people, we can definitely go over that 15 minutes before we get to the second one. Would it, to administration, be okay if we moved it to, say, at 9:35 on this one? Just make it a little bit earlier so it gives us a little extra time to get to the next one. I mean, if it goes quick, we can go on to the agenda, but I'd hate to schedule it and finally run into the second hearing. Anything else from council? Councillor Wilhelm.
A motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 606/23, amending land use bylaw 490/17 for northeast 285912 west of the 5th, plan 972-4048, lot 1 to CR Country Residential District.
All right, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried, and we have a second motion on books here. Councillor Williams.
I'll make a motion that council direct administration to schedule the public hearing for the land use amendment application 2023 LUA 03, bylaw 606/23 for October 11th, 2023 at 9:35 a.m. at the Woodlands County Whitecourt Municipal Office.
There in our written one, it says 10 o'clock for both those times, but we're just at the 9:35 anyways. Motion on the floor for 9:35 for the public hearing. Any discussion from council on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one is passed. Down to 7.1, business arising.
That's me.
Morning, Corinne.
Morning. Let me get organized here. Okay, council, you will recall the draft proposed floodway regulation resolution that was discussed at GMP last week. The committee had recommended and forwarded that draft resolution to council for consideration and also to RMA for review. RMA was very wonderful and had the opportunity to review that draft resolution and came back with edits, as you will see on page 63 of the agenda package. They did apologize for what they called extreme track changes, but what approach they take is generalizing the content to allow more flexibility in advocacy efforts. The idea is if there are specifics within a resolution, it could hit a sticking point and just die out. So we really look to them for their review and recommendations, and the
final draft with all the accepted changes are begin on page 67. So it has reduced the draft resolution quite substantially. And they're very comfortable with this. They were happy to be a part of this process with Woodlands County. So if council has any questions, I unfortunately can't answer a whole bunch. I was just working with RMA and looked to them for their expertise. The next steps would be, should council endorse this, send this off to Pembina Zone 3 on September 25th for endorsement. Again, the submission deadline to RMA for resolutions is October 10.
All right, thank you. Anything from council, any discussion? Councilor Burrows.
So sitting on RMA, we get to see these resolutions, and it's kind of what I thought. Again, that what Corinne had mentioned with the broadness of it. Sometimes the advocacy gets a little too tight, the scope gets too tight, and RMA is able to advocate in one way but not another. So we're not directly the way that the resolution's written. So I support the edits that have been done, and with that, I'd like to make a motion that council forward the proposed floodway development regulation bill 27 resolution to the Pembina Zone 3 for endorsement.
Okay, motion on the floor. Is Councilor Dean still with us, or did we?
No, he's left.
He's left? Okay, we got that noted. Perfect. With that, I'll call the question. Any discussion from council? All in favor? That is passed. 7.2, amended policy 6204, emergency relief assistance for catastrophic events. Morning, Heather.
Good morning again, Reeve and Council. Before you is the amendments or the amended policy 6204, emergency relief assistance for catastrophic events that was discussed at GNP last week. There were no amendments, so it's just bringing forward to you again for any more discussion or anything further since last week. All the changes are noted on page 2 of the RFD. They're listed there, all the things that we changed. We made amendments based on your feedback from council. And I believe that was the August 16th meeting. So they were all in there, they've all been made.
All right, any discussion from council? Councilor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council adopt amended policy 6204, emergency relief assistance for catastrophic events.
Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that one is carried. Moving through here quickly. 7.3, amending policy 5103, care of the community angels for recreation enrichment.
Good morning again. Again, this is policy, amendments to policy 5103. We'd like to name change to youth enrichment subsidy. This was presented to you at GNP last week. There were no changes or amendments at that time. This was, the Community Services Committee reviewed this and looked for, is it relevant? How do we get more into current trends and the way things are run and subsidies are followed? We have a new application and we're gonna be marketing it a little bit more to schools and such, so there were no other changes that you had based on the GMP. So that's in front of you today.
I know there's a bunch of discussion around this at the GNP, but where's council, any discussion from council here on this? Seeing none, anyway, Councilor Williams.
Williams? Or
I'll do it. I'll make a motion that council adopt amended policy 5103, youth enrichment subsidy.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Okay, motion from the floor, any discussion on that motion? Call the question, all in favor? That one is carried. Okay, 8.1, intermunicipal cost sharing agreement and return payments to the town of Whitecourt. Mr. World?
I think Andre's doing it.
Okay.
I was told Andre was doing it, so.
Sorry, put your name on there, they kind of
Okay.
threw you under the bus, I guess.
Okay, I'll go through it real quick then. Your worship, members of council, you have an RFD before you. We received an invoice from the town of Whitecourt for $1.5 million for the contribution towards the ICF. And provided as recent payments that we've made to the town. In terms of the last 2 years, there's still some outstanding amounts that could be payable to the town, and we've have them accrued in accounts payable. We have made no payment to the town so far in 2023. And the recommendation is that administration submit payment upon a signed intermunicipal collaboration agreement in the amount not exceeding 1.5 million for Woodlands County 2023 contribution towards the ICF, or Intermunicipal Collaboration Agreement.
Thank you. I'm just gonna kind of start off here. I know we know we're gonna have a bill with the town. We haven't paid anything this year. We made contributions in the last year, kind of as an interim payment before we find out what the final is. I personally feel that, you know, in good faith on dealing with this, it would be beneficial to us to, you know, make the payment and keep going. If we don't do this now, when it comes out, we'll just end up with a bigger bill in the end anyways, so. Any other discussion from council? Seeing none, anybody want to make a motion? Seeing any? Wait, Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that council directs administration to submit payment upon a signed intermunicipal collaboration agreement in the amount not exceeding $1,500,000 for Woodlands County 2023 contribution towards the intermunicipal collaboration agreement.
Could I make a friendly amendment?
Certainly.
Instead of, not exceeding 1.5 million, just making it 1.5 million? This way they have a total, because currently I don't believe there's a total. I got Corinne's asking for.
Clarification on the motion, are we forwarding an interim payment now or upon a signed agreement?
That was my next question.
I mean, I was just going off the recommended action.
So I believe what Reeve Cush was referring to was not what the recommended action was to forward an interim payment for 2023, so just a matter of procedure, administration is clarifying the motion.
I was,
Yes, it's a motion.
So
yeah, Councillor Burrows.
if I could, the way the motion reads, it says upon a signed agreement. We're not quite there yet, so I think the idea is that the motion should be for an interim payment of 1.5 million.
Regardless of signed?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll rescind my motion
Right.
and I'll make a new motion.
Okay, go ahead.
A motion that council directs administration to submit a payment of $1,500,000 for Woodlands County 2023 contribution towards, an interim payment of Woodlands County's 2023 contribution towards an intermunicipal collaboration agreement.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Any discussion on that? That one work for administration? Any other discussion from council?
Your worship,
Sean?
I don't think the payment is towards the ICA. It should just be for our contribution.
So structurally, I think he's saying there is no formal ICF to make a payment towards, is that correct?
Correct.
So it should just be an interim for, what do we call it, shared services or
Yes.
something? Or-
Corinne?
The motion in the past was interim payment towards intermunicipal cost sharing with the town of Whitecourt.
Okay,
Friendly amendment that? That works.
if we can work it so that
Towards
it
the
matches.
intermunicipal cost sharing
Yeah.
services.
So it matches up to the previous motions then. Okay, so motion on the floor for $1.5 million for intermunicipal cost sharing with the town of Whitecourt. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. Thank you very much. 10.1, councillor reports and questions.
I think you 8.2.
Oh, I missed one there? Sorry, 8.2. getting ahead of myself here, sorry, excited to get through this.
Wrap this thing up.
Appointment of Assessment Review Board officials for 2023. Says Mr. World again.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, members of council. We need to appoint the Assessment Review Board officials for 2023. Normally, this is done very early in the year, but it was missed, so we have to appoint them. We have the same recommended members as we had last year. And my understanding is we do have an appeal, so they will be active. We have a commercial appeal. So the recommendation is that council approve the 2023 appointment of members to the Assessment Review Board, as listed in Appendix A.
Councillor Wilhelm?
I guess this would be directed towards council and administration. Do we not have a council representative on this board?
Through the reef to Councillor Wilhelm. It's actually, we have a third party that does this for our behalf, and it's by contract. So we have a 3-year contract till the end of 2024.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion from council? Councillor Williams?
I'll just make a motion that council approve the 2023 appointment of members to the Assessment Review Board.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried. All right, now we're down to 10.1. Council reports and questions. Start with Councillor Wilhelm. Kind of all by yourself on that side, so.
Very fast today. So since the last council meeting, I actually have been away, so I haven't attended any committee meetings. I just wanted to say, in the last day, I've put in myself for service requests on roads as we're leading into our road tour next week. I think we need to remember, as both council and administration, that one of the things that the residents see or deal with on a daily basis is our infrastructure and roads. And when I'm getting 10 phone calls in a day because of the poor quality of the roads, it continues, and it ends up being the highest amount of service requests every month when we get a service request tracker. I want us to remember that the roads are the most important thing that they see every day. They don't see the excellent services that we provide all the time. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They just see our infrastructure and they see our roads. So I would just like administration to remember that, and if we can continue to try to make sure that that's one of the best services we provide to them, that would be fantastic, because there's lots of discussion going on in the community about the roads right now. And I think it'll be, when we do our road tour next week, it should be pretty interesting to see the state ourselves on some of the roads that we may not travel very often.
Any questions or comments to Councillor Wilhelm? See anyone? Go to Councillor Williams.
Since last one, we had a special council meeting, so we didn't get to go over some reports, but I had a library board meeting before that, Woodlands County Library Board meeting that I attended. The board's pretty consistent, great board to be on, but then an Ag Society meeting I went to, I discussed some of the hoedown, and it was very successful. Probably one of the best ones they've had in quite a long time. Really well attended, lots of good feedback, so pretty successful, I would say. And then we had a GP meeting I attended, and that special council meeting that I was at, but that's all I've done since the last one.
Any discussion, Councillor Williams? No? Councillor Burrows?
Yeah. So all I've attended in the last little while at the Woodlands level has been the AVPA, the Airport Vicinity Protection Area, open house that was last night out at the airport, and it's interesting because when we had a conversation with, and this is something that's coming up on land use around renewables, there's I think 2 or 3 airports in Alberta that are going to be affected by windmills that are getting erected within the operating area of the approach areas of the airport, and it's going to have severe operational issues if those developments go ahead. So this type of approach is proactive, and it looks like we've got capacity to blow the runway length out to 7,500 feet. So that's tremendous. So good to see the progress on that. Had really good conversations with several residents around other issues as well, because, you know, the minute they get a little FaceTime with a counselor, it always comes up some other stuff. So I'll be having discussions on those later. And that's it for Woodlands. The other thing that's coming up is the 2 years have gone by and the District 3 RMA position has to be chosen again through elections. So I'm asking the council for their support to have me run again as the District 3 rep for RMA.
I'd say with having you in that position is definitely beneficial for us. We get a lot of, you know, a little bit more know on what's going around, a little more communication I find on current topics. I would definitely be in support of keeping somebody in our council in that role. And yeah, you've been doing a great job in there, I think, for the district as a whole, so.
Definitely.
Any other discussions from council?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, on to me, again, hasn't been overly busy. Had an interview with XM 105 just over the Blue Ridge community, whatever days there, sorry.
Fun days?
Fun days.
Fun day,
Yeah,
yeah.
fun days, there we go, sorry. Spent last week up in Grand Prairie for Alberta Recyclers Convention. A couple things that came out of that, yeah, kind of go, some of the things kind of on the neat end, I guess. There's Aquaterra, the landfill they have up in the area there. They had a big demonstration tour out to their landfill and kind of showed us how they're using, yeah, like essentially gas wells kind of put into their landfills to capture methane gas, and they move it around and actually use that for power production. So yeah, it's just neat seeing the different technology and stuff that's out there that they're kind of able to do with that. Some of the other things that are coming out, and this is more on a federal level, and the gentleman who gave us the rundown on it, you know, reminded us that he was just a messenger and not really part of the process on this. But there is going to be coming up here in the next couple of, I think it was 25 is when it's starting. They want to start monitoring all landfills for methane gas and kind of get levels of where they're at. And then there's going to be a flow chart. If you make it over certain levels, it's more money and more money and more money. And the problem is that it could result in hundreds of thousands of extra dollars to municipalities, depending on the size of your landfill, or depending what your landfill creates. And unfortunately, the message from them currently is that there is no real grant funding or anything currently being looked at the federal or provincial level to help offset those levies. So it is something that's coming down. It is something that will obviously through the landfill authority have to probably start monitoring and seeing what's coming out with that, because it could be costly. I know our landfill isn't as large as some of these other ones, but it still could cost some money coming our way. I was at the airport vicinity open house last night. Lots of information from the consultants that were out there. When I was in Grand Prairie, had a quick meeting with Grand Prairie Polytechnic school up there. They're trying to see different ideas or whatever they can kind of do to help industry and whatnot down here. Just different learning, and I guess we kind of spitballed a whole bunch of ideas or whatever for the area and for them, and we'll see kind of where that lands out and where that goes. But it was a really good conversation I had with her, and it was great to just put off different ideas on what the support from the school and the area here could actually do for our region as a whole. Any other questions from council administration? Seeing none, could I get a motion for reports? Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion the council accepts the council reports and questions as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Call the question, all in favor? That is carried. 10.2 financial reports. Mr. World.
Your worship, members of council, you'll find attached a financial report to the end of August of this year. It's sorted by object area. The last few reports you've seen were by department, but I've done it by object area because it's much easier to forecast and give you a better picture of the total positioning of the council, or the county at this point in time. I've provided commentary on line items where the variances are significant, or where I have some information to better understand why we're out of line on a certain cost code. There is some risk. I think if you look at the last page, I forecasted a surplus around 780,000 right now at this point in time. But I was talking to Mr. Bashan yesterday, and it might be 200,000 or 300,000 at risk from the floods, because we may not have seen all the invoices yet. And I was kind of working on where we're at in the on the GL system, so we're probably a little bit behind. But I think we're still in very good position overall. And when I say surplus, that's the surplus outside of the surplus that we've put in for the recovery plan.
No, that's good news. Councillor Wilhelm.
Can you just extrapolate on your explanation for the provincial grants portion where it says less $795,000 for gravel crushing, which will go to inventory? I didn't quite understand what that comment meant.
Yeah, so through the reeve to Councillor Wilhelm. So when the budget was done, the gravel crushing was actually not in the budget. It's an inventory item. And so when the the amended budget came through to council, the director at that time asked for that amount to be funded. And because they didn't have a place to put it, they put it under provincial grants. And what's going to happen when we crush our gravel, we're going to put it into inventory. We're not going to have any impact on our financial statements other than a movement from inventory, from cash. We charge gravel as we use it. So it's kind of at the end of the day, in my mind, we should not have funded that amount of money in the tax bylaw.
Any other questions from council? Not seeing any. Anybody want to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion that the council accepts, sorry, Mr. Chair, the council, make a motion that council accepts the financial report as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? See now, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's carried. 10.3 Service Tracker Report. Nikita taking us through that one?
Yes, he is.
Okay, yeah. So yes, before you is the monthly service tracker for report for August. As you can see, the average number of service requests fall in line with the previous 2 years. I do want to point out, one, we did receive kudos from a resident thanking staff and their neighbors for all of the work being done during the floods. So that was very nice to see from residents. The other things you may have noticed, there's a couple of requests regarding the speed limits on some roads, and I believe that was because just some speed signs that were recently posted. Andre might be able to explain a little bit more about that.
Your worship, members of council. So the road use or the traffic bylaw identifies that all subdivisions are posted at 60 kilometers. So the signs were never put out. We've been putting the signs out. When we are getting calls to have the speed limit reduced, we are informing the residents that they should put it in writing, addressed to the CAO, with members within that residence additionally signing, and then it would be presented to council for consideration to reduce the speed limit to, some cases are looking for 50, some cases 40 kilometers an hour. So as we receive those, they will be brought to council.
Okay. Councillor Wilhelm.
Through the chair to Andre, is there a threshold for, like, say you've got a subdivision or a road that has 10 residents on it? Is there a threshold to the amount of residents that need to be included to have or to apply for a speed change, or is it just if one person requested, it's going to end up at council? How does that work?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, there's no set numbers. If we get a request in writing, it just gets presented to council. In the past, I think 2 years ago, we had one request on can't remember the road, but it was just off West Mountain Road. Council requested that a survey be done of the residents in writing. That was done, brought back to council. Speed limit was left the way it was.
Councilor Will.
Second question, through the chair to Andre. I see there's one request here to not grade Range Road 120. Do you know, did they extrapolate on that request or what was that one? Because I've never seen that before.
Through the chair to Councilor Wilhelm, I was going to point out that we had 9 requests regarding grading. So roughly 20% of our requests are saying you're grading too much. We actually get that probably 2 or 3 times a year from different roads from different people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
That's funny.
Any other discussion from council? Councilor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the service tracker August 2023 report as information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one's moved. CAO report, Mr. Bouchon.
Your worship, members of council, a couple things. One is the recruitment process has started with consultants on the filling of the Director of Corporate Services position. And just a reminder that Tuesday, September 19th, 8:30 a.m., the bus will be leaving the office here for the road tour. 8:30 a.m. on the 19th, Tuesday.
And Carrie, make sure that we have, I don't think there's a time in our calendar. I think all it says is all day. We'll be able to check that and make sure that,
That'd be awesome.
yeah, we just have a couple of councilors who are here. I just want to make sure that they have that information updated in their calendar.
Yeah, I don't have an invite or anything. I just got a road tour all day.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah,
It's
same.
all day, so. All right, any questions for Mr. Bouchon? Councilor Burrows?
So just one question. A couple meetings ago, we talked about in the interim payment to the town of Whitecourt, reminded me of this. Have we got a transcript for the judicial review yet?
Through the chair to Councilor Burrows, our lawyer is working on obtaining that, so we should have it hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Wilhelm?
I did forget to put something in my reports if you don't mind, and it would go to the CAO or the interim CAO. I think it was probably 2 months ago, I had requested to strike a subcommittee on tax policy review, and we haven't seen anything about that yet. So if we could, just want to put a bug in administration's ear about that to hopefully get that within the next couple meetings. It's important discussions to have coming up to budget time, and I'd like to get that subcommittee started if we can.
Another quote just along the same lines of what you're saying for bugging year. We did have a discussion earlier in the year around having public input and working around that in our meeting procedural bylaw, and we haven't really seen anything come out of that yet. So if we can have, you know, administration kind of look into that or where we gotta go.
Noted.
Okay. Anything else from council? Seeing none, anyone want to make a, Councilor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the CAO report as information.
Motion on the floor, discussion on that. Question, all in favor? That is moved, and it takes us down to number 12, last motion. Councilor Wilhelm.
No motion to adjourn.
We have no discussion on motion to adjourn. So with that, I'll call the question, all in favor? We are adjourned, 10 a.m.